In this video of the Historic Ordnance series, we're going to be looking at the Chinese People's Liberation Army's primary anti-tank mine. Now, this mine is listed as 3 different mines in sources here in the West, including with the U.S. Army. But however, when I was digging into the information on this, the Chinese and the Russians say that this is the same mine, and the only difference is the fuse. Even in EOD sources, they say that it's possible this is one mine and that it's just different models of fuses. So EOD was on the right track, the U.S. Army was not. What you are looking at is a Chinese Type 66, also called Type 72, and also called the Type 81 anti-tank mine. Now, of these 3 here, this is a Type 72, this is the Type 69, and this is the Type 81. All 3 mines have the exact same dimensions, exact same information. It's the same mine. The only difference is basically you could consider it like a Mark I and a Mark II. The Chinese designation that they're primarily seem to be using is Type 72 for all 3 mines. Now the diameter is 10 2/3 inches. The height is 4 inches. Weight is 14 1/3 pounds, of which 12 pounds is the explosive filler. And the explosive filler is a 50-50 mix of TNT and RDX that's referred to as hexatol. That is coming from Russian sapper information. Now, these mines are plastic, all 3 of these models. They come in either green or brown. No secondary fuse wells have been noted. However, because it is a plastic case mine, it would be very easy to take a knife and make a secondary fuse well. These mines were designed to be hand emplaced and also to be laid by a mine laying trailer, which is a copy of the Russian PMR-3 mine laying trailer. There's no difference between those trailers other than its dimensions on the chute is sufficient for this mine. Now the Type 69 and the Type 69 has what's referred to as a double impulse fuse. Name for it, Type 69. Double impulse means it's supposed to take 2 activations before it goes off. So something can pass over at once and then it's supposed to go off on the second activation. The reasoning behind that was so that it wouldn't go off on the front of a tank, it would go off farther back on the tank. So they said it was designed in their articles. I did get some information straight from the PLA on this. They designed it so that the first road wheel would go over and then the second road wheel it should activate. But there shouldn't be that much of a change of a ground pressure and the track when a tank goes over the top, or an APC. The real difference would be a wheeled vehicle like a cargo truck. So the front tire would go over, and then once the rear tire would go over, the mine would activate. The Type 72 has a single impulse fuse, and so does the Type 81. And this is the fuse that's in the Type 72. And it's referred to as the Type 72 fuse or the T72 fuse. This one here, the actual picture is of a Iranian YM3 fuse, which is an exact copy of the Chinese Type 72 fuse. It is made out of plastic, very little metal inside. There is 2 ball bearings inside and the spring. That's about it on the metal. That's probably the only parts that would be detectable. The rest of it is all plastic. Now, as you can kind of see on the pictures and the diagram here, this is from Russian sappers. What happens on the first impulse, the fuse goes down, and then as it's coming back up, it's supposed to slip over into a second notch. And then the second time it gets activated, it goes down. It's supposed to activate the fuse. Reportedly, the fuse for the Type 81 is a double impulse. It will be similar. It might be a slightly different construction internally to make it more safe for the handler. The fuse on this is tricky. That's even from the sources I got for information from the PLA. The fuse is tricky, and if you're not careful during removal from the mine, you can accidentally set the mine off. That's a warning even from them. Now this mine, because of its construction in all 3 variants, is blast resistant, meaning you can have a MICLIC, a mine clearing line charge, land right over the top of these mines, and the impulse from the blast is not sufficient to set the fuses off. If it's close enough to the mine, hopefully it will set it off. But if the mines are greater than 1 meter away, according to the information I was able to find, if the mines are greater than 1 meter away from the line charge when it goes off, they will not detonate. Now these mines are all over Southern Africa, Central Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Some of the countries reportedly that have them include Angola, Bosnia, Croatia, Cambodia, China, Eritrea, Ethiopia, Iraq, Jordan, Mozambique, Rwanda, Somalia, South Africa, which has their own licensed copy of it, Sudan, Uganda, Zambia, Yemen, Kuwait, and Iran does produce their own version of it, the YM3. And the difference between the Chinese model and the Iranian model, the Iranian model uses comp B as the filler, and because it uses a different explosive, the weight is actually a little bit heavier. There's a bit more explosive in the Iranian version than the Chinese version. Now, to put this mine into operation, I actually have something special here. I actually have pictures that were put out by the People's Liberation Army for a news story for their people showing how these mines get put in. They do leave out a little bit of info, but most of it is right there in front of you. So first off, you're going to inspect the mine and the fuse for damage. If the damage is sufficient to prevent its use, don't use it. If it is damaged but can still be used, you can use it. Passes inspection, you're going to take the mine to the area where it's going to be emplaced. It can be surface laid with the mine layer. It can be buried with the mine layer also, but it's usually quicker with the mine layer to surface lay. And it can also be hand emplaced buried, or hand emplaced surface laid also. But dimensions for burying, as you can see, is a little bit larger than the mine, and it looks like the Chinese engineer does what the US did and made a 45-degree angles on the ground around the mine. The top of the mine should be level with the top of the soil. And just like the Russians do, they peel back the sod to roll over the top of the mine. So once the hole has been prepped, place the mine inside the hole. You will then remove the fuse well cap. It just unscrews from the top of the mine. You will then take the fuse. You will remove the safety clip from around the outside of the fuse, and you will insert it down into the bottom of the fuse well. Now the bottom of the fuse well is threaded. It's not threaded for screwing it in. It's threaded so that it kind of falls down in there between the teeth, between the notches, and secures it in place. It's going to be a little bit snug, is what it looks like in a lot of the pictures and from what I read. After the fuse is in place, you will put the fuse well cap back on the mine and screw it into position. There is sufficient space between the cap and the fuse. It should not come in contact, even when it's screwed all the way in. At that point, you're going to roll back the sod back over the top of the mine and camouflage it. The mine is in place. Now, for removal, there are some pretty big safety things with this one. First off, you're going to come in, you're going to check around the mine for protective mines and booby traps. If any are located, take care of them before continuing on. If the area is clear, you're going to locate the mine. After you locate the mine, you're going to remove the camouflage materials from around it and over it. You may have to dig it out, depending on how long the mine was in the ground. After you have done that, you're going to go through, check the sides and underneath for anti-handling devices. If an anti-handling device or booby trap is found, stop and destroy the mine in place. Do not continue with removal. If no anti-handling devices are located, you will then remove the fuse well cap from the top of the mine. You may need the legs from the arming pliers to move it because it could be kind of stuck in there because of mud and stuff. After you remove the cap, you're going to pick the mine up out of the hole. And this is kind of weird. Put the mine on its side. Reach inside the mine. If you have the mine plier, you will use that to grasp the fuse and remove it from the mine. If you do not have the plier that you need to remove the fuse, reach inside with 2 fingers, grasp the bottom of the fuse here. This section down here, do not grab the top, grab the bottom. And you will gently remove the fuse from the notches down inside the mine here. If you grab it from up here on the top part of the fuse and try removing it using that, you run the risk of setting off the mine right in your face. So, grasp it from the bottom with only 2 fingers and very gently work its way out of the mine, doing your best not to set off the plunger. Once the fuse is out of the mine, you will replace the safety clip around the fuse, securing the 2 pieces together on that fuse. You will then screw the fuse well cap back onto the mine and turn everything in. Now the question may be, why do you remove the fuse well cap before removing it from the hole? Because if it's in the hole, the mine is a bit more stable, and if you have issues with getting the cap off, the ground will kind of hug the mine just a little bit, allowing you to get a little more leverage in there to take the fuse well cap out. Plus, while you are removing the mine from the hole, you want to make sure that that fuse stays in position, does not fall out or move enough that it could activate the mine as you're taking it out of the hole. So as you're taking the mine and flipping it onto its side, you might want to put your fingers inside there. Hold that fuse as you're lifting it up to make sure it stays in position, and then remove the fuse. Now these mines, because they are low metallic, they are hard to locate, but they are not impossible. The Chinese military tells the Chinese people that they're impossible for Western troops to locate, and they're so advanced that our engineers cannot remove them from the ground, cannot disable them, you know, that they're invincible. Going through on the information on this, I don't believe so. It's no different than any other anti-tank mine, but the fuse is just a wee bit trickier to handle than other fuses that we've seen on other mines. Now, I did come across one reference from an EOD source that the fuses will fit down into the fuse well here with the safety clip still on. So what could happen is you fuse them at the mine dump, put them on the vehicle for use with the mine laying trailer. When that mine is getting close to getting sent down a chute, one or two of the troops in the back of that truck or the back of that APC unscrews the fuse well, pulls the fuse out, pops off the safety clip, puts it back down inside, puts the fuse well cap back on, and then passes it down to go down the chute. So you can, in theory, put the fuse inside with the safety clip still on, put the cap back on, transport it to where it's supposed to get laid by hand, and then once it's there, go through, basically do the same thing. Now, I can't confirm this, but it looks like these mines are issued 2 per crate with 2 cans inside with 1 fuse inside each can. I do not know if the fuse wrench, the fuse pliers, comes in each crate or if it's a squad issue item in the PLA's engineer units. Uncertain on that. No information on that one. But there you go. All the information I could find on the Chinese People's Liberation Army's primary anti-tank mine, the Type 69, Type 72, Type 81, which are all the same mine. They're low metallic, made out of plastic, hard to detect, but not impossible. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot militia movements, always remember, essayons.